I say, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? I am your host, Lacey G. Soldier Turner, and today I got a special guest with me back for the second time on the platform. We got the great, wonderful, amazing, talented Dr. Fredrick Echols. How you doing, man? Welcome to the platform.
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, good, man. So we got a couple things to talk about. So when we get off into it, I remember in 2022 you were named CEO of Cure Violence Global Anti Crime Program. Can you tell me what things that you did for the program while you were in there?
Sure. So when I started with Cure Violence Global, the priority was to look at operations. Oftentimes when we start in new positions, particularly in executive level positions, there's uh, a lot of learning to do around, about what's happening behind the scenes within an organization. So my first priority was just to do that, to look at what was happening around within the organization as relates to from an operational standpoint, and then to identify areas where we could become more efficient, more effective, as well as reduce as much waste as possible. And so there were quite a few things that we were able to accomplish during my tenure with Cure Violence Global. One was diversifying the organization's fiscal portfolio. So at the start of my tenure, over 80% of the funds that were coming into the organization were based off of just local government funding, and so there wasn't the diversification of the fiscal portfolio was really limited. So we're able to expand our fiscal portfolio to include philanthropic organizations as well as other government organizations and special funded grant initiatives. In addition to that, we also started the organization's first diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging program, which is something that's really important when we think about any public health program, because oftentimes the population that we're looking to serve may not always look like the people in the office, right? And so we wanted to make sure that the individuals who were actually doing the work, not only were they a reflection of the communities where we were being placed, but also to make sure they were properly trained and felt like they had an environment that was safe and inclusive. And that goes beyond just the color of the skin. So we also have to think about individuals with different gender identities and different sexual preferences. We also need to make sure that the spaces within organizations are safe for them as well. And so that was part of our DEI, the new DEI program that we started. And then in addition to that, we're just expanding the reach of the organization, not only in the U.S. but abroad, and had an opportunity to present at the United Nations General Assembly in New York City, and worked really closely with some of the organizations out of the Middle East. And so that was really something that hadn't been done before. And so we were excited about the opportunity to share with the world the information that we were creating around our impact across the globe, but also just to increase awareness about violence prevention as a health issue, because that's something that still is lacking not only in the United States, but abroad as well.
Okay, okay. Look at this. You was doing a lot of stuff. Y'all see that? A whole lot. it's like I,
Always a lot to
it's
do.
like I
Yes,
wasn't
sir.
just sitting on my butt up.
That's right.
Okay, so also I know you left Cure Violence Global earlier this year, and you found Population Health and Social Justice Consulting LLC. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so Population Health and Social Justice Consulting LLC was actually created prior to my start with Cure Violence Global. So, as we navigated the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the things that became really prominent and across the local public health ecosystem was the inefficiencies that are limiting government's ability to really address the root causes of inequities and disparities that we report on day in and day out. And so one of the goals of Population Health and Social Justice was to really provide a blueprint for local government, even state government and community-based organizations that are interested in addressing the root causes of health inequities and disparities in a way that helps them leverage their existing infrastructure to ensure sustainability. So one of the things that we saw over the course of the pandemic as well was there was this huge influx of federal funding, But what we also saw was that a lot of the community-based organizations were not well positioned to actually take advantage of those funds and use those funds because of the amount of red tape that came with the federal regulations, but also some organizations just weren't prepared. For example, some of the smaller community-based organizations did not have standardized HR policies in place. They did not have workforce development policies in place. They did not have tools to capture information on the impact that they were doing for reporting purposes. And so those are things that really set a lot of organizations back, particularly community-based organizations that are led by people of color. And so one of the things that we're also doing is really helping those community-based organizations better position themselves, not to just partner with, let's say, local health departments or local government organizations, but so they get them to the point where they can actually be self-sufficient, so they can actually go out for federal grants and state grants themselves, but be confident that they have the infrastructure in place to meet the deliverables associated with those funding opportunities.
Okay. Look at that, man. You be dropping that knowledge, letting people know what you're doing. I love it. Okay, so I also see you have been selected for the new Obama Foundation Leaders USA program. Can you tell the people about that for who don't know anything about it?
So this is a really exciting program. So the Obama Foundation has been creating cohorts of leaders in other continents. So there's been cohorts that have been established in Africa, Europe, and Asia. But this particular cohort is the first or the inaugural cohort for the United States. And the goal is that for them to create a pipeline for leaders across the United States that are working to create a better democracy, make the democracy more equitable and just in its practice. And so we have a variety of individuals with a very diverse backgrounds at the table. So there's 100 individuals that were selected for this inaugural cohort. And again, it's a lot of amazing work that's being done across the United States. But I'm really excited about the passion and the willingness of the Obama Foundation to really pull these leaders together in a way that's meaningful, so that they can further develop their skill sets and be more effective in their day-to-day efforts.
Okay, and man, I think that's a remarkable feat because you said 100. Do you know how many people that's doing things, and for them to only pick 100 people is just? I know that was an honor. So, how did you feel when you got selected?
I was all smiles. I've always admired the Obamas just throughout President Obama's presidency. There was a lot of issues related to health, public health, and particularly health inequities and disparities that they were working to address. And one of the things that came out of his tenure was the Obamacare, and so a better health insurance option, but public insurance option for individuals who may be uninsured or underinsured. And so for him to really not forget about the people in the community is really important. Not only not forgetting about the people in the community, but also creating opportunities for future leaders to come together in a way that's meaningful, so that they can share ideas, they can collaborate, and just have a greater impact not only across the United States, but across the world. Because one of the advantages of going through this program is also that there's an opportunity to get connected to other leaders across the world. For example, I reached out to one of the staff on the other weekend, so I have a meeting scheduled to meet with leaders from South Africa on Wednesday. And so, the issues that we face in the United States are not limited to the United States. Other countries are having similar experiences, and you have leaders in those countries who are developing innovative ways to address those issues. And so our goal is to really create this brain trust where we can reach across the U.S. or reach across the world to learn from others who are leading in various spaces.
Okay. And I know you touched on this a little bit, but what do you hope to accomplish with this program or get out of the program?
So as an executive in public health, it's really important for me to be in tune with what's happening, not only outside of organizations, but also within the organizations. And one of the things I hope to gain from this program is just more opportunities to fine tune my skill set and also learn more effective ways to lead. Leadership is comes with a lot of responsibility. Not only do you have to care for yourself, but you also have to care for others. And one of the things that impacted me over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic was, the self-sacrifice, right? And so putting my own um, uh, goals and so forth on the back burner to an extent, to make sure that the needs of the community were met, and also to make sure the needs of the staff who are working under my leadership, make sure their needs were met as well. Because at the end of the day, we know their lives are depending on us, but we also have to be mindful of the fact that, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're no good to other people. And so one of the things that has come out of the program already is, how do we show ourselves compassion as leaders? And oftentimes we demonstrate compassion in a variety of ways to people in community, whether that's through, going out and performing different services, creating different policies to help benefit the community, or creating initiatives for the community. But sometimes, we need to take time for ourselves to figure out, how can we be our best self? And sometimes you have to take a break. That's one thing my friends get on me about. Take a vacation, go lay up on the beach somewhere, and get your mind right. So, but showing ourselves compassion is something something that's really important, but oftentimes it's underestimated and underutilized in public service spaces.
Yeah, I just had to take me a vacation to Orlando, so I know what you're talking about. Felt great. I want to go back now. But so I wanted to ask you, you've been doing a lot of things. So what are some major issues that you still think we face today, and what can be done to correct them?
Because I think, as we look at how the world is shifting, particularly how it has shifted over the last few years since the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the things that was highlighted is the inequities that continue to persist. We had an opportunity, as the local public health ecosystem. We had an opportunity to really come together as with a collective voice, and develop some level of unity to address the pandemic. And I think that was really telling. The fact that it took a pandemic for a lot of us to come together, a lot of the public and private organizations to come together, and that shouldn't be the case. This level of collaboration should be something that persists. It should be sustainable, and it should be maintained indefinitely. Because ultimately, if we're able to leverage the existing resources and infrastructure that are available to us, we're able to better meet the needs of the people who need them. And oftentimes the people who need them are those who we consider to be the most vulnerable. Oftentimes we report on those populations on a regular basis, but we look at our level of outreach, our level of engagement, and our level of provision for those populations is lacking. And so we had an opportunity during COVID. Some jurisdictions capitalized on that and really did a great job of meeting the needs of the people. But in some other jurisdictions, there's room for improvement. But that's something that needs to be done consistently and again indefinitely. And then we also have to address the stigma and the bias around those populations as well. So, we talk about the most vulnerable. Oftentimes we think of individuals who may be incarcerated, or justice involved, or even just Black and brown people in general. There's a certain level of stigma that has been attached to them, even on the way that public health agencies report on chronic illnesses and special conditions, whether it's in violence and crime. We oftentimes further stigmatize those populations in our reporting. So we have to, as a public health ecosystem, we have to really be mindful of the language we attach to data and how we describe data, because sometimes it can do more damage than good. And so that's something that also came out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And ultimately, when we look at how democracy is functioning, there's a lot of opportunities for us to make improvement, but we really need leaders, particularly elected officials, even individuals who are leaders in the private sector, really need them to come together in a way that's meaningful as well, in a way that really helps uplift and empower those most vulnerable populations. I used to tell Mayor Cruzen during her tenure, the city is only as strong as its most vulnerable populations, and we know that to be true. And so, if we can identify ways that we can better support those individuals who have the greatest need, we can create a better system overall.
I like that a lot. That's really big. So, Mr. Fredrick Echols, do you have anything coming up that you would like to promote or have the people in tune to?
So right now, the primary focus is this the Obama Foundation program. This is a very intense program, and I'm very intentional about making sure that, as I tell the team, that I'm fully present and taking advantage of all the resources that become available to me, and also making sure that I'm able to implement what I'm learning as I go through the program. It does the community no good, it does the local public health ecosystem no good if I learn, if I'm exposed to all of this information and I don't apply it. And so putting myself in a position where I can actually implement it effectively and efficiently is really a top priority for me. The other thing is learning to be, not learning, but learning different ways to be a compassionate executive, meaning it's not only compassionate towards others, but compassionate towards myself as well. So making sure that I'm the best advocate for myself when, because as leaders, sometimes it can be lonely at the top, and you feel like you don't have anyone to go to. You can't go to anyone, and so making sure that I also have a network that I can go to in the event that I just need help, because sometimes we all need help. Just because you're in a leadership position doesn't mean that you don't need help sometimes, or that you don't struggle with just life events. And so, life really took me and my family hard last year. We lost 4 family members within a 12-month period, and so we're still dealing with the grief for that. And so, making sure that during this time, I also, not only am I able to grieve, but I can also just continue to show myself compassion in a way that helps me be the best leader, the best executive possible. And the other piece of that is, as I learn this information, those individuals who I'm mentoring, is really important for me to pass the information on to them as well, because it's not just about me going through the program. It's about how can I go through this program and then create a better path for those who are coming behind me. And so, really being an effective trailblazer is really important, because there's a lot. I won't be around forever.
Yeah.
But we know that some of these issues have been around for centuries, and so just because I'm not here doesn't mean that everything is going to be great. And so, making sure that I'm empowering those future public health professionals, those future physicians, in a way that they can take on leadership positions and be confident that they can operate proficiently in their roles.
Okay. So I want to ask you, what can the people of the community do to, help create change or help you out with what you're doing?
That's great. So there's a lot of stakeholders. So I've been blessed to have a network of organizations that I've been able to work with over the last few years. And but for lay people in the community, it's really important for them to know how to access services. But all of the burden shouldn't be placed on them. When we think about what happened during COVID-19, we put out messaging through radio, through TV, and even through some social media platforms. But for our most vulnerable populations, those simple things they don't have access to. So how do we break down the barriers for them in a way that's efficient and effective, but also not stigmatizing? And so that's one of the challenges for the local public health ecosystem and community-based organization. Creating more efficient access, but also making sure that when we get individuals into our spaces, where there's a clinical space, where there's a public health department space, or other government space, making sure that we don't harm them when they come into our space is really important, because we saw that as well over the course of the pandemic. So people, they can get access to the vaccines and other resources, but if they're stigmatized and they're treated poorly when they get into the space, the likelihood that they're going to come back for other preventative health services is very low. And so we have to make sure that we are operating in a manner that's culturally sensitive and appropriate. And again, so every health system, every federally qualified health center, every religious organization, every academic institution has a responsibility to make sure that the needs of the community is met. But we have to work together to do that. And so one of the goals for those organizations is really to learn how to come together. And if a platform hasn't been created, work with the local health department, work with a hospital system, work with some other organization, and start having discussions about how we can come together as one unit to uplift the community, because that's what's really needed for the change to happen in a way that's sustainable.
Okay. So, Mr. Fredrick Echols, let the people know where they can find you at, or how can they become a part of what you
So if you're looking to reach out to me, you can reach out to me via email. My email is fredrick.echols@gmail.com. That's FREDRICK.ECHOLS@gmail.com.
do? Okay. So I want to thank you again. You know, I'm always gonna tap in with you when you got something going on and when you're doing something. So you always welcome to come to the platform, even if it's something you want to promote.
That's what's up. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. I'll talk with you later.
All right.
Have a good day.